get ready to get shticky. Shticky Situations is sponsored by Corona Crush. Corona Crush is creating Jewish couples always. Join the Facebook group. Just search Corona Crush and look out for virtual speed dating events happening every other week. They're 100% free and 100% Jewish.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Shticky Situations. I'm your host, Rachel, as all of you already know, because I'm unforgettable. Everybody, please subscribe or follow on whatever platform you're listening on. We're available on pretty much all of them. If we're not available on a platform that you would like us to be available on, then shoot me a message. I'm going to give you the contact information very shortly, and I'll see what I could do for you. I'm here to please. I just want to entertain you, and in whatever means, on whatever platform that you want to listen on, I'm here to try to help. Also, go like the Shticky Situations page on Facebook, follow Shticky Situations Pod on Instagram, follow Shticky Situations Pod on TikTok, and if you would like to be a guest on my podcast, I have guest applications, everybody. Really exciting. So I'm going to post a link somewhere on the Instagram, TikTok, Facebook page, but in case you can't find it, you can also send me a DM on Instagram. Again, that's at Shticky Situations Pod, or you can also send me an email at stickySituationsPod@gmail.com, and someone from my team will get back to you quickly. That also being said, if you would like to date me or any of my guests, single guests, only the single ones, you can also reach out. I'm working on putting the links up so you don't have to reach out. But for now, just reach out, maybe peruse the Instagram page, and hopefully by the time this podcast is out, I'll have found somewhere to put the links. But I love a good Google form, so there are applications for those too. So today I have an extra special guest, and yes, I know I say all of my guests are extra special. That's because everyone in Shticky Situation Nation is extra special, and they're great people. So again, that's a plug to come be a guest on the podcast. I want to hear your stories. It's great. It's fun. We commiserate together, and we can laugh about it. And you never know. Maybe someone will slide in and want to date you, and maybe that will be your basheret or your soulmate. And I can actually be a matchmaker, which is like kind of what I would love, but we'll see. We're getting ahead of ourselves. But anyway, I have an extra special guest today. So everybody, please welcome to the podcast my friend Miriam.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Miriam. Thanks for coming.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Before we start, I just want to say, Rachel is so talented. Every time I listen to her podcast, I think she has notes in front of her. She does not have any notes in front of her or any paper. And I'm just astounded because I always forget what I have to say. So I am in shock. I'm really impressed.
So it's funny that you say that because I was staying at a friend's house for Shabbos. It wasn't even in my community of young people. I was at a married friend's house for Shabbos months ago, and she invited a few other couples for lunch, and I was telling them about the podcast because that's what I do. I just plug the podcast everywhere I go. And so they're like, can you give us a little snippet? And it was Shabbos, so it's not like I could pull out my phone and play it for them. So someone's like, do your intro. And I did it exactly, and everyone was like, oh my gosh.
I'm not surprised at all about that, but I'm still a little shocked that you don't have notes. Also, I just want to say that I listen to random Bachelor and Bachelorette podcasts because I love Bachelor and Bachelorette, and it's always been a dream of mine to be on a podcast. So thank you for fulfilling that dream.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm here to make dreams come true, everyone. Shticky Situation Nation. I'm here to make your dreams come true. Just let me know what they are. But really, the only ones I could make come true are if you want to come be on a podcast or maybe being a matchmaker, but you have to be interested in someone who's been on the podcast.
But this is bucket list. I can check this off my bucket list.
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy that I could do that for you. Okay, so Miriam, tell Shticky Situation Nation just a little bit about yourself. Can you give them all the general things that I normally ask? So your age, your location, and your relationship status.
Okay, so I am 28. I live in Manhattan. And as my sister likes to say, I'm single like a Pringle. Although I never understood that because Pringles always come in a canister and a stack. But I just like that phrase, single like a Pringle.
I think it's just because it rhymes.
Probably, but yeah.
And nothing else rhymes with single.
Yeah, sometimes I'm like, does that make someone sound desperate? I'm like, no, it's like a fun way to say that I'm single. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
And I'm really loving living life right now. Just like enjoying spending time with my family and my friends. Yeah, I mean, that's really about, actually something also that's important to know about me is, I guess, like, you'll better understand why I have views the way I do from this podcast, is I'm a social worker and my mom's a social worker, so that's formed a lot of my views on dating and relationships and my past experiences. So I guess that's also important to know.
Yeah, it definitely is. We like insight. Also, I'm going to add another question for my intro just so my audience, my listeners can gauge more about my guests. Can you tell me your religious identification?
Yeah, so it's so funny because I feel like that's such a hard question to answer.
You can like give a general, like we don't need like the specifics, but like I feel like with thinking back to all of the guests that I've had on, because you know that I've had a broad range of guests, like ranging from yeshivish to not religious at all. I just think it's an interesting question. It usually comes up in stories, but it's an interesting question to ask from the get-go that I'm going to add to my
I definitely think it's a really interesting question. It's just funny because, like, I categorize myself as modern Orthodox, but I grew up in a family where it's just like, okay, we're Jewish, we're Orthodox, like that's what we are. And there was like no real title to it. But then I have friends and family members who say they're also modern Orthodox and they're either more religious than I am or less religious. So I think I would categorize myself as modern Orthodox, but like there are certain things I'm stricter in and certain things I'm like a little bit more lenient in. So I think that's why I would categorize myself as that. But just for me, like it's such a hard question because I feel like so many people have like asked me, okay, but go deeper. What does that actually mean? I'm like, I don't know.
Well, we don't have to go so deep here, but just to give my listeners a little perspective. So you're dating in the modern Orthodox world.
Yeah. For sure.
Okay. So, should we jump right into stories?
Let's jump right in. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. Miriam's been saying that she's so excited to come on the podcast ever since, like, because she's one of my friends from my neighborhood that I've talked to about the podcast, like, since inception. So I'm excited to finally have her here.
It's not even that I have, like, that many stories. I just feel like I have stories that have formed who I am. And, like, you've just been talking about this podcast, and I've been so excited. And, like, our lives have just not matched up that we've been able to record.
Yeah.
And I'm just so excited. Like, I told my family about it. I'm like, it's really, I don't know if you would call it like pathetic or weird, but I'm just so excited.
No,
it's
I also
fun. Love sharing. Like I'm very open about myself because I feel like experience is like what helps people grow and learn. Again, that's like the social worker in me, but I just like, I love talking about my experiences. Not because I love talking about myself, but because I feel like I learned from other people's experiences, so I just want them to learn from mine, whether they were negative or positive.
That's why I have this podcast.
Yeah, I love
you guys know I share everything, or pretty much everything. So
I've learned a lot. Well, I actually probably knew like all the stories that you said, but I've learned a lot about Rachel from these podcasts.
Yeah, everyone knows a lot about my life, but it's fine. I like it.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm an open book. It's only weird when guys who I'm like dating or like towards the beginning of dating or just talking to, because I tell them I have the podcast because I can't not tell them. It's even like tonight I had a call right before we're recording, and I told him, I'm like, yeah, I have a friend coming at 7:30, but like I kind of had to tell him what it was. Also, I work a lot on the podcast. Like that's my hobby. So my side hustle. So like it takes a lot of my time. So it's something that I put my schedule around also. So like I kind of have to tell guys about it, but it's weird when like sometimes I won't tell them the name, sometimes I do, and I'm like, just letting you know, listen with a grain of salt, like.
Yeah, but you know what? Like if they listen to it and they're like, oh my gosh, this girl's too much, I can't handle her.
You know what? Like,
they're not for you, and too bad for them. Like screw them, and you're too good for them.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not concerned about that. It's more like if I say something alarming because I get caught up in a moment on a rant about something. And, like, sometimes I usually mean what I say on here, but sometimes I exaggerate, you know.
But there's going to be a guy that listens to that and is like, oh my God, she got caught up in this rant, but like, I want to hear more about what she said. Like, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and
I'm telling you, that's how you're going to meet the guy you're going to marry.
I mean, we'll see. Podcast guests, if you want to date me, like, you do have to fill out the application. Like, I have an application.
I know.
Miriam has seen the application, I think. I think I showed it to you.
Maybe, but I've definitely heard a lot about it.
Yeah. So there's an application, but if you want to fill it out and you think you have what it takes to be my husband, let's see.
You're making it like a challenge, you know, like a TV show. Like, if you think you have what it takes. Rachel's a really sweet person, guys. Like, she's making herself out to be like not, but she really is. She's so sweet and kind and caring and giving.
Thank you, Miriam. Flattering me. Flattery is the key to my heart.
Well,
one of the keys. But okay, sorry. I'm getting Miriam distracted because I want to hear Miriam stories.
Okay, so I mean, where do you want me to start? Like, do you want me to start like with dating stories, or do you want me to start like a little bit with my background of relationships?
It's wherever you want to start. You can start with your background. You can start with stories.
Okay, so I think
whatever you think.
I think I'll start with my background, but like I'll be like a little bit vague because again, there are always like two sides to every story.
Yeah.
And I also don't know who's listening to the podcast, and I don't want anyone to think like I'm bashing anyone because I'm not. I'm so over that part of my life, and I've grown a lot from it, but it also forms me into who I am.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll start from there. So when I was in high school, I guess we like weren't dating, but we just didn't want to add a title. We were like the classic like best friends. So there was this guy that I was dating in high school, and then we dated after high school, and then eventually we broke up. And he eventually married somebody from our friend group, and my sister-in-law is actually his sister. So there was like a lot of connections, and I'm actually really, really close with my sister-in-law. Thank God that really we were able to work past it. But for a long, long time, for many years, thinking back to that relationship caused me a lot of heartache. And not actually thinking about the times we had together, because I actually had so much fun in high school. This was junior and senior year. I had so much fun. It was like I had this best friend who was like my partner in crime, who I could lean on for anything, who did everything with me, who I could tell all my secrets to. I also, at the time, like I'm very open about it. Like I have anxiety, but I was not dealing with it correctly. But like he was the one who helped me deal with it, and like I wasn't dealing with it in unhealthy ways, but I didn't really know that I had it. I was more like I would just get like super overwhelmed, and he knew how to calm me down. Like I loved high school, and I thought back to those times, and I thought, oh my gosh, it was so amazing, and that was ripped away from me. And as I got older, I realized that it was many, many years that I thought I was mourning the relationship. I wasn't actually mourning the relationship. What I was mourning was that during such a pivotal time in your life, and I actually love working with teenagers and young adults because that time in their life is like the formulative years. So during your formulative years, can't say it that fast, teenage and young 20s is like when you're supposed to be figuring out who you are, when you figure it out with someone else and you're dependent on that person, and then that ends and that person gets taken away. I wasn't really mourning. I realized I didn't miss him. Like, of course, like when the breakup first happened, I did, and everybody was like, oh, Miriam, I don't understand, just get over it. It's like a high school relationship. There are parts to a relationship that people don't know. So there's that. Also, as like a young 20-year-old, you think like, oh my gosh, like you're in love. This is the person you're going to be with forever. It's like your first serious relationship.
And some people in our community, some people do marry
exactly.
their high school sweetheart. A lot of people do.
Exactly. So
especially in our like, we're both from like smaller communities. Like, if you're dating in high school, like there's a good chance you're going to get married, especially if you continue dating after high school.
Exactly. So I was also looking at it from that end, like. A lot of my friends were continuing dating their high school sweethearts. He was a part of he came to my sister's wedding. He was at my brother's first anniversary. Like he hung out with my nephews. Like he was a part of a lot of things. So everybody, like there were parts that people didn't understand, but then there were other parts that kept snowballing. Like we had all the same friends. I had to learn, like my sister-in-law, at that time, my sister-in-law and brother they were just dating, but we had to learn she was also my best friend. So we had to learn how to rebalance our relationship. And I'm so grateful for that because she's amazing. And if she's listening to this podcast, she should know I love her so much. And our kids are freaking adorable. And like, I also, because of everything that happened, I stopped trusting people. And I had to learn how to re-trust people. But more than that, I had to learn how to re-trust myself, which is like kind of a realization that I'm having later in life. Because I had trusted this person with everything, who I am. And so I had to relearn who I was, relearn what I wanted out of life, relearn the next steps, and relearn to trust myself. So I would say so we broke up when I was like 20. I think I went on like one date with somebody when I was 23, and I was like, I'm not ready. I went out with somebody else again when I was like, that was like when I was 22. I went out with someone else again when I was like 23, 24, wasn't really ready. I think I seriously started dating, actually looking for someone and being open to it when I was like 25 or 26, which is much later than most of my friends. And not because I was stuck. Everyone kept telling me, like, just get over him, just get over him. I tried explaining it to people. I said, I'm so over him. Like, he's married with kids. Like, I'm happy. I'm like, I moved to New York. I made new friends. Like, it's not the relationship that I'm mourning. I am trying to rebuild who I am because those formative years were built with someone else. And especially when your brain is developing, like there could be research about it. I have no idea. But like, you're so reliant on someone that you don't know how to be reliant on yourself. And I see like my friends who weren't in a relationship in high school, and they're so independent. And not that it's good or bad to not be in a relationship, but I was so reliant that I didn't know how to trust or rely on myself. So that kind of like set me back a lot. And I'll forever be grateful for that relationship because I learned a lot about myself. And because of that, I actually am who I am today. That's why I have the friends that I have, because I had to learn to trust new people. That's why I'm super close with my family, because I would always like go hang out with him instead of building relationships with my family. And then I had to start building I've always been close with my family, but I had to start relying on them more. So I was closer with my family, and then I was closer with my friends. And what seemed really difficult ended up being really good. So that's like a shortened but also like vague-ish version to say like that relationship formed who I am, but not because I was thinking about the relationship all the time, but because I was thinking about what was best for me finally, and not for us. Because when you're in a relationship, especially in high school, you're like in la la land. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And you just forget about what you need to do for yourself. And my mom even says it now. She's like, you forgot to form relationships with other people.
Yeah.
And I want to add, like, including myself. I didn't know who I was. So that was that. So then I finally, at like 25, 26, I was like, okay, like something clicked in me. And I was like, I'm ready. Like, I had gone to college. I was a madricha, which is a dorm counselor in a post-high school girls program in Israel. I moved to New York. Like, my family's from Chicago. We are not a New York family at all. Like, I'm very much an out-of-towner.
It's okay. I am too.
Yeah, like my friends can all attest to it. I'm like full-on out-of-towner. I hate the term out-of-towner until I learn like
what
the difference
I don't like
is.
classifying myself as an out-of-towner because
Yeah.
that makes it seem like we're inferior to the New Yorkers.
Oh, I think it makes us superior. Just
but
joking.
but honestly, like it's like we're just different.
Yeah, I always say it so like people know. Like, I'm not
same.
New York. Like, I think it's just you grow up differently. Like,
Yeah.
But some of my closest friends are from New York, and I actually have no problem with New Yorkers. It's just you grow up differently, especially when you grow up in a suburb or a smaller town or a smaller place. Your mindset, you just like grow up differently, and what you value in life is just different. I agree. So then I moved to New York. Like, I did all these things, and finally I felt like I had really gained a sense of independence. And I remember, well, first when I was in Israel for the year, I went out as a dorm counselor, I went out with two guys. One of them, like, it didn't work out with, which was fine because there was misunderstanding. And then another guy I said no to because he wanted to live in Israel right away. And I was like, I'm going back to America. I got to figure my life out. And then I get a text a couple days later. I found all these texts saying, I want to check in to see if it paid for you guys to meet. I said, this is from the guy who's setting us up. I said, no, I'm just a little confused because I'm still in the same place. And apparently the guy who was setting us up was like, oh, he just wanted me to check to see if you changed your mind. I was like, first of all, I didn't change my mind. Second, in my head, I was like, this just if I wasn't ready before, I for sure know I'm not ready because I didn't even know what to say to that. I was like.
So how long after did he send that text?
It must have been a couple months after.
Ugh. I hate when guys just assume you're going to change your mind about something.
Yeah, he was like, I was hoping you had a change of heart. Maybe he really wanted to go out with me, which is really nice, but I was like.
There's no point.
Right, and that's also when I knew, okay, I also am not ready because I wasn't even willing to, talk about it or think about it. I was like, no, I need to figure out myself. This is about me right now, not about him.
Yeah.
But that to me, I was just cracking up. That's why I took screenshots because I was like, this is freaking hilarious. I have to send it to my friends. Then when I got back, so I moved to New York. I can't remember the order these happened in, but I have a couple of crazy dating stories. Do you want me to get into that?
Sure. We love crazy dating stories.
They're some of them are just insane. So again, I think when I first moved to New York, I was 24, so I wasn't dating yet. I remember I was still telling the story about my ex to my friends, and I would cry and I would be emotional. But again, it was because I felt lost. It had nothing to do with him. It had to do with myself. So then I think after 2 years of living in New York, I finally went out with someone. And I don't remember the order that this happened in, but there was one guy I went out with, and we actually went on 3 dates. It was really nice, but I wasn't feeling it. The second date, I had gotten blood taken, not on the date, but before the date. He brought me water. He was super sweet, but it was the type where it's just you meet someone and you're I can be friends with you. That's kind of where it ends. So the third date with him was actually the best date I've ever had. It was really fun. We went mini golfing and we went to a Dave & Buster's type place. But it was fun because it felt like I was hanging out with a friend. It would feel like I was hanging out with you.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is fun. So I ended it with him. And a couple months later, we were on, the Teen Single Shabbaton that young couples started a couple years ago. Yeah. So I went on that first one. I was invited to go on that first one by one of my married friends. And because we're sort of the same religiously, I don't know if he knows the story, and if he's listening, if he will now, but my brother and sister-in-law are neighbors with his brother and sister-in-law, and I told them this story, and I've told the story so many times, so he probably has heard it at some point. Anyway, we were at the same Friday night meal, and we were walking, and we were just talking, because why should it be awkward? We can still be friendly, we could still be friends. So I was talking to him, and let's say his name is Abe, right? Okay. That's not his name. Let's say his name is Abe, and I called him Avi. That's my brother's name, but I was like, oh yeah, how you doing, Avi? And he's like, oh my gosh, how do you know my Hebrew name? I was like, you must have told it to me at some point. No joke. I 100% forgot his name.
Oh my God.
I knew it started with, in this case, it was the letter A. I mean, it obviously was a different letter, but no joke.
That's so funny.
I got so lucky that I accidentally said his Hebrew name. And then my roommate was going to go out with him. And she was talking about him. I'm like, oh, you're going out with Avi? She's like, that is not his name. I was like, dude, it's not. I am so bad with names. It takes me forever to remember names to the point where, I'll be going on a date. And I used to say to my roommates when I lived somewhere else in Manhattan, I would say to them, I'd be like, who am I going out with tonight? What's his name? I am so, not because I have 1,000 guys texting me, but because I am so bad with names.
I hear you though, because I don't save guys' numbers, and I usually give them code names to talk to my friends about. So my friends are like, oh yeah, this guy, and I'm like, yeah, and then I kind of forget his real name, but then I remember it. Sometimes I have to
but really I don't even go out with the person and I forget his name before I go out with him. And my roommates have to be like, this is his name, and I'll have talked to him, no joke, 5 minutes before. I am so bad at it. I got so lucky. To this day, I still call him Avi.
Oh my gosh.
I ran into his sister-in-law, and I'm pretty sure I called him Avi. It was that one was just a funny one, but if he ever listens to this, I don't know if he'll know who it's him because I didn't use his name, but Yeah, everybody uses code names. It's like a thing. I mean, I don't. I just say the real name, but
except everybody, I just have to tell you on so we just finished when we're recording. We're like a week past Simplest Torah.
Yeah.
And at Simplest Torah, I was at a meal and I was telling a story about stories from a podcast, and I talked about my pet boy Summer, and one of the girls, and I said the pets' names, like the 2 different pets' names that were like both having to do with Jewish food. I already told these stories. If you want a refresher, go back and listen to previous episodes. But my friends knew the pet boys as Dog Guy, Horse Guy, and Cat Guy. So one of the girls at the table, once I said the names of the pets, the girl's like, I know Dog Guy. So then
oh my gosh,
the whole night, I went around introducing her to all of my friends as Dog
Guy's
friend. And all of my friends knew, and she didn't even flinch when I said it. I'm like, guys, this is Dog Guy's friend.
By the way, I wasn't there, but I could totally see that happening.
Yeah, like, 100%. I called him Dog Guy. Like, why would I say his real name?
No, but you going and introducing her as Dog Guy's friend.
I was like, because she's nice, she's friendly, she's like, she doesn't live in our neighborhood, but she's looking to move here. So we walked from our meal to a party afterwards, and we were walking around outside, and I was like, oh, I'm going to find my friend. You're welcome to come with me. Like, they're all nice people. So I found a friend, and I'm like, hey, guys, this is her name. I introduced her by her name, and I'm like, she's Dog Guy's friend.
You know that if she ever moves here, that's what she's going to be, like, referred to as,
she's right? Dog Guy's friend, yeah. She knows. I mean,
DGF. That could be her nickname.
Dog Guy's friend, yeah.
DGF.
She was cool about it. She was cool. She's funny. If you're listening, I hope you found it as funny and you were actually chill about it.
In her head, like, screw you, Rachel.
No, she seems really nice.
I'm joking.
Yeah, so I just had to tell you that.
I like that story. Like another short one is I went on a date with a guy. When I first started dating, I had this like place that I specifically took guys to, and I was like, this is a one and done. But like, you know,
wait, you planned the dates?
It was the guy's from out of town.
Oh, okay.
But also, like, sometimes the guy's like, where do you want to go?
No, I don't like that question.
I don't like it either. But this was also when I was like at the beginning of dating.
Oh, okay.
I don't mind it, but sometimes I'm like, I don't care, you pick. But this was also like probably the first 2 or 3 guys I started dating after like my whole life saga, which, by the way, like, yeah. So I don't know. It doesn't bother me, but I do want the guy to plan. So anyway, I told this guy about this. You know that, like, I don't know if it's still open, but this like game cafe place.
Yeah. Not
the one on the east side.
No, there was one in Midtown.
Yeah. No, there's another one like farther away.
On Commons?
Yeah, by the Commons. So that's where I was like, okay, this is perfect, because I already said yes to this guy. It was like a family obligation or something. I don't remember why I went out with him. And even though like my parents don't force me to do anything, I just like, I don't remember why I said yes. Anyway, it's like the perfect date, because like you don't actually have to talk. You could just play games the whole time. Anyway, we went out afterwards. He was like, oh, what train are you taking? And I was like, I think I asked him what train he was taking first, because in my head I was like, I swear if he says the same one as me, I'm going to take the other one. I'm just going to go uptown or downtown or go the other way or east or west. I do not care. And I was like, because he wasn't a bad person. He's actually a really nice person. But I was like, I was so freaking bored out of my mind.
Yeah, and you know
what? I was like, I was spending more time with him. So he was like, oh, I'm taking this train. I was like, okay, perfect. So I have to take like, I don't know, like the 3, whatever it was. And so I literally, like, we said goodbye. I went downstairs, like, we walked down the train steps, waited 3 minutes, walked back up, and just walked around the area. It was so nice. I got some ice cream. It was really nice. That's just, like, a fun little tidbit. But I have a really good story from that place.
Okay. Let's hear it.
I went out with this guy. Don't remember his name. So we'll just use Sam.
Okay.
It's not Sam. I have a friend who's Sam, not you. Okay. Already he was running, like, half an hour late.
That's annoying.
Which I understand. People run late, like there's traffic, whatever, but like you don't even tell me that you're running late. Like, at least I've had dates where the guy's running late and he's like, I'm so sorry, like I got stuck in traffic, like I mistimed it, the train was late. Not a problem. Just let me know. Didn't even let me know. Okay.
That's rude.
Yeah. It's just, that to me is just rude. Like if I'm running late with my friends or my family, I'll be like, I'm running late. It's just be courteous. Anyway, we went to this Commons place because I was like, this was a YU Connect date when I had first started YU Connect, and I was like, I didn't really know how to filter out good or not good guys, and I was like,
I think I still don't.
I've gotten better at it, but it's still really hard. Actually, my friend used to be my shotgun on YU Connect, and she did it for me.
Yeah, so my friend is my shotgun on YU Connects, so the matchmaker. So basically, it's an online. I've talked about it before, just not by name. It's an online dating platform that you pay for, and there's a matchmaker that sets up dates, and they send you matches.
It's like any dating platform.
Yeah, usually not great matches, in my experience.
I think you have to have a matchmaker who knows you, though.
Yeah. I mean, so far my friend's only sent me one guy. And he's been okay, except for, I think we've been dating for 2 months now, and we've had one phone call.
Oh, that's not.
Yeah. I think I'm going to close the match. He lives in California also, so it's like, I don't even have time.
I mean, you get to go to California. Why not?
We've had one phone call.
Oh, okay,
I'm not
fine.
booking a plane ticket.
He could book it for you.
He could come here.
I find that, like, when it's a friend, you can then tell the friend. At least with my friend, like, I told her, like, this is why this doesn't work. I need a guy like this. And she listened to what I had to say, as opposed, I mean, I think, like, with any matchmakers anywhere, you need somebody who knows you, whether it's on a site or in person.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I went out with him. I think first of all, he didn't know how to play, like, any games, which was fine. I taught him how to play the games. I don't remember the actual dates so well. After, like, an hour and a half, I was like, oh, like, I was in grad school, so I was like, I have a paper to write. I gotta go. So, like, I am done with this date. Okay, something you should know about me, and any of my friends listening will know this, especially if you knew me the first 3 or 4 years I lived in New York, mostly 3. I am terrible at answering back texts. I've gotten much better now, but it used to be like I could go, there's like this joke of where somebody goes, oh, I'm sorry, I was in the shower. Like, I just saw your text from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, that literally was me. Like, I did not answer back texts, did not answer WhatsApps, and not because I was ignoring the person. I would either open and forget to answer or just, like, totally forget or not see it. I was just terrible. I've gotten a lot better, and my friends can attest to it that I've gotten better.
Miriam was pretty good at answering my text according to
Yeah, because I was like, especially COVID, not really, but especially I think when I moved, I moved to a different part of the city of Manhattan. I kind of was like more, I don't know, I just like was meeting more people, and I needed to try and be in touch with more people, and I was like, I need to make the effort. Let me tell you, it's really exhausting, especially if you're busy, but I'm like, you know what, I can do it. And now that I do it, it's like second nature.
Yeah.
I didn't know that when I wasn't doing it. Anyway, so my friends can really attest to that. This one was not so bad. So I found the screenshots because I used to know these texts by heart, but then I forgot them. Okay, so I get a text from this guy going, this was at 10:21 in the morning on a work day, on a Monday.
This was the next day?
Yes. Now, keep in mind, I used to work at a day school, and this is when I was in grad school. So when I was in grad school, I was an assistant teacher. After I graduated, I worked in a position that, like, I was by the computer more. I had, like, a little bit more flexibility. Even with that flexibility, I couldn't really, like, answer texts back during the day, even though I, like, was by the computer and I could WhatsApp from the computer just because I was so busy.
Yeah.
Especially when you're an assistant teacher and you're working with kids. First of all, you're not supposed to be on your phone. Second, if you're, like, having to think about an answer to something, I cannot put mental energy into anything, and I like hyperventilate when I have to tell a guy no. Especially like back then, I was like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And I will take full responsibility. I sucked at answering guys back, like terrible at it. Sometimes I would take days. Anyway, he texted me, and he worked in a job where he worked at a computer, so he could like have one screen open doing his work and another screen open texting or whatever.
Yeah, I do that.
Exactly.
It depends how busy I am. But yeah.
Right, but so this was at 10:21 in the morning. I opened the text accidentally, okay, which I do often, but this was during the workday.
You should turn your read receipts off.
Yeah, so that was a big problem. I should do that, but then I can't see if other people read my text.
Yeah.
It's like a lose-lose, a win-lose. I don't know. Anyway, he texts me at 5:31. 7 hours later. Okay, so, like, it hasn't even been a day. It's been 7 hours. It hasn't even been it's the work day. He goes, sorry, not trying to be pushy or anything, but I'd really appreciate if you'd let me know one way or the other. I'm like, okay, dude. So I text back, hey, wait.
I see that text being okay if it's been like 24 hours.
It was 7 hours.
I would maybe give 48 hours.
No, 7.
Honestly, if I don't hear from a guy within 24 hours, I just assume he's dead to me, so it's fine. But like 48 hours, I'll give him the leeway of 48 hours.
Like, exactly. This was 7 hours and 10 minutes.
Yeah, no. And it's like in the middle of the work day.
Yeah. He didn't even text me at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
He could have waited until like 9 p.m.
Yeah. Like, I got home from work at 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I get this text from him saying, hey, so I send back, hey, sorry, I haven't gotten back to you until now. I just got to my text, like, I've been working, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm really sorry, I'm not interested, but it was really nice getting to know you. I didn't screenshot my text because obviously, like,
yeah.
I was like, I'm not interested. Fine. I always delete the guy's texts. If there's nothing there, I, like, delete them afterwards. I get this text from him. He goes, just a bit of advice since you seem like a genuinely nice person. Responding to people in a timely manner really goes a long way, especially if you're going to leave your... He also had terrible writing. If you're going to leave your blue check setting on. This was like that night at 10:40. I was like, okay, thank you for giving me Mussar. Like,
yeah,
literally.
Mussar is rebuke for any of you who don't know what that means.
But also, I don't know about you, but when I go out with somebody and the guy seems like an okay person, but not for you, I'm like, maybe I have a friend for him or something, or like, maybe I would want to set him up in the future. Like, maybe, or like if I run into someone, I'm like, okay, like, and I get to know someone, something will click. Like, I'm not constantly thinking about the person. Like, I went out with that guy that I went out with 3 dates and it just wasn't good. Like, I met someone and it just like flashed in my mind. I was like, oh, let me set them up. It didn't work out, but I was like, let me set them up. But right then in my head, I was like, you're really not a good dude. Like,
no. And listen, I understand him being upset if it was like 24 hours, 48 hours, but you have to give someone at least until the end of work hours. Like, you need to give them a couple hours after normal work hours end to be upset. Like, I would have been upset maybe like at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. or if I woke up the next morning and I didn't have a message back.
Exactly.
Like, that's when I would be upset, because then it's like, okay. But also, like, I don't know. I'm with you because usually I try not to open the messages.
Yeah, that was my mistake.
My thing is, like, sometimes I just get really busy and, like, I also get anxiety, and, like, sometimes I just, like, don't have the mental energy to open my texts. So even, like, if I have a crazy busy day at work or if I'm working really late, by the time I get into my bed or log off of work, like, I don't want to text anyone back. Like, so sometimes I need that extra day. And, like, I'm not saying that's always, especially if it's something that requires mental energy, whether it's texting a friend where there's multiple messages, or messaging someone back that you have to put in thought, and, like, it's like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know what to say. Like, sometimes you need a day or two.
Exactly.
And that's fine.
Even, it's like, especially if you're telling someone you're not interested, like, you don't know how they're going to respond. So, like, you
need to mentally prepare yourself.
Yeah. Between his first text and this text, it was 12 hours. It gets better.
Oh, gosh.
I text back. I say, I apologize. I accidentally opened it while at work and was unable to respond.
Yeah.
Thank you for your advice.
And he knows that you worked in a school, like, with kids. Like,
I probably, but either way, I was at
work.
Yeah, so this must have been like right before Pesach or Sukkot, because then I said, thank you for the advice. I will keep that in mind for the future. Chag Sameach. Done with the text.
Oh, no.
That's what you think, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah. Clearly is not getting the message. I don't want to argue about this, but literally I read that sentence and I was like, dude, we went on a 1 hour and a half date. We're not like a couple.
Like, what does he want from you? You apologize.
I know. And I'm like, what are...
And you gave a valid reason.
Exactly. But also, look at this. Like, you could tell I've deleted the chat like 3 times because I think the messages, like, the conversation's over. Yeah. But I'm like, dude, we are not in a relationship. We've gone out for an hour and a half. Like, that's less time than I spend on a TV show that I like. Like,
yeah.
I'm not invested in this. What are we arguing about? Like, I don't understand.
I don't know.
I'm no joke. I told this story so many times because I thought it was so funny that I used to know these texts by heart. I don't want to argue about this, but I think you probably could have found the 30 seconds necessary to respond to the text as a common courtesy at some point during the 8 or 9 hours that followed that, instead of making me wait the entire day. Chag Sameach. He definitely wanted to have the final word. And I was like, okay, dude.
That's when you just like leave him on red.
Right, so I didn't.
Oh.
But I was like, okay, dude, first of all, you obviously don't know how girls work if you think it's just like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Second, like, it was a work day.
Yeah. And listen, I am a fan of calling people out on their BS. Like, I call boys out on their crap all the time. But, like, in this scenario, like, okay, like, this scenario is just a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, like, I've gone out with guys before and they don't answer me. Like, I'll text them and they'll text me and whatever, and we'll be texting for a little bit, and then at like 10 in the morning I don't hear from them again until like 6, 7 p.m. But like, that's normal.
I call them out if it's been days.
Yeah, that's normal.
Then if it's been days, you could find 30 seconds to text me. But if it's like, it's a work day.
Yeah, that's literally so stupid. So then I answer back, thank you for your friendly advice. I appreciate it. Have a chag kasher v'sameach. And that was it.
It must have been Pesach.
I was like, oh yeah, probably. I was like, I'm gonna have this final word because you're an idiot.
Yeah. No, he's a jerk.
Yeah. I was like, I'm done with you.
Yeah. Oh my God, I would be too.
Yeah.
Oh, guys are so dumb.
My old roommate actually went out with him, and she was like, yeah, I should have told you. I was like, yeah, thank you.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, why did you not tell me? Like, honestly, he probably is a nice guy, but he just has not matured. Maybe he has now. I don't know. Honestly, I don't even remember what he looks like, so I could run into him and like go out with him.
And like totally never remember who it is.
And like go out with him
You
again.
need to keep a database of
I know
names.
someone that does that, but I
have
just
it. I
forget
have
the
a
guy's
list.
names. I don't even remember his name.
Some of them don't have names though. Because I thought about making the list way late in the game. So I literally backtracked, recalled all of my memories, went through all of my matches, went through all of my unsaved numbers, and tried to piece together who all I went out with. So that's your issue.
Yeah.
But I have a Google Doc of names of all the guys I go out with. Some of them don't have last names because I just don't know them or don't remember. Or some of them I didn't remember their names. So I just have like something to remember them by on it. Like I need to like work on taking better notes on it too. Like I'm trying to make it like a real thing, and I've been in my free time, which I don't have. I've been trying to like look back and add stuff to it, but maybe one day. That's a project for the future that
I could probably go back on my YU Connects profile.
Oh yeah, so I did that. And that was helpful for a lot of the guys I didn't remember because they were not memorable because they were terrible.
Right.
But
this one, I don't even remember his name.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't save guys' numbers. There's one guy, I usually delete the text. There's one guy, like, I just went out with him. He was a good guy, like, terrible communication. Like, we went out a couple times and we spoke a couple times. It was like a month, and we went out like 3 times. To be fair, I was out of town, but like, spoke a couple times, went out a couple times, like, rarely communicate. Also, like, every couple of days he would text me. So terrible communication, but like, even that, I'm like, that was like borderline, like, the only reason I saved his number is because I've been getting so many spam calls that I was like, I need to make sure that I don't think, like, that he's not a spam call. I literally have missed so many phone calls because I'm like, this is a spam call. But even then, I'm like, I'm not going to save someone's number until it's like, I usually delete the entire conversation after because I'm like, why do I need it?
Oh, I like reading them back sometimes. But wait, before we talk more about this, I think we should take a break to hear a word from our sponsors.
Perfect.
But we'll be right back, everybody.
Shticky Situations is sponsored by Corona Crush. Are you tired of swiping on dating apps? Tired of guessing whether the cute guy or girl you keep seeing around is Jewish and or single? Then you need to run, not walk, to join Corona Crush. Corona Crush is a Jewish organization working to create Jewish couples always. Corona Crush has over 30 confirmed engagements, over 22,000 members from all over the world, and has set up over 50,000 speed dates. Join the Corona Crush Facebook group and post yourself or have a friend post you and see who reaches out. Fill out the survey to sign up for virtual speed dating events happening every other week. Corona Crush is 100% free and 100% Jewish. Worst case, you end up with some stories of your own. Best case, you find the love of your life. Try it out today. Here on Shticky Situations, we tend to focus on bad dating stories, but sometimes dates do go well and lead to proposals and weddings. Who would have thought? And what do all of those require, you might be asking? Well, the answer is flowers. Who doesn't want flowers from someone they've been seeing? Don't forget, flower petals and bouquets needed for proposals. And that's even before all the flowers that go into weddings. Shticky Situations is sponsored by Primrose Flower Shop. In my opinion, Primrose is the coolest flower shop around and has the best customer service to fulfill all of your floral needs. Primrose offers a range of services from your basic bouquets to subscription services where you can get flowers delivered once a week. They deliver all over the tri-state area, including Manhattan. Primrose does weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, and other simchas. I've personally been to a wedding where Primrose did the flowers, and the work they did was beyond gorgeous. Primrose additionally offers in-store proposals, including a romantic setup with candles and music. Primrose is located at 2922 Avenue M in Brooklyn, and the phone number is 929-376-9815. You can also follow Primrose on Instagram at PrimroseNY. So, if you can't get someone out of your head, buy them some flowers from Primrose. They'll either love it or they'll find you really creepy. But regardless, the flowers will be out of this world. As listeners of Shticky Situations, we know you love hearing people's best dating stories. Now you can hear dating stories in real time through Date in a Blink, a podcast that lets you eavesdrop on people's first dates. The conversations range from goofy and hilarious, to deep and vulnerable, to sweet and awkward AF. Can you predict which couples match and which don't? Check it out and see how good your guessing skills are.
But yeah, like I said, if I don't hear from a guy within 2 days, he's dead to me.
Yeah,
Unless he grovels or has a good excuse.
I think that's like what does it for me is I'm such a sucker for like, I don't know, like.
I'm a sucker for flattery though.
I'm just like a sucker for like cuties that like, if they're just, like if they give like I guess like a good excuse, I'm like, okay, it's fine. And then after I'm like, no, it's not fine. But like, I'm like in my head during the conversation.
Yeah, it's like I'll establish it in my mind, you're dead to me. And then he texts me and I'm like, okay.
No, you're not dead. Yeah, for sure. I wonder like what the guys think though. I was actually, when I was going with this person, someone was like, the person who set us up was like, you can also take the initiative because guys also like to feel wanted.
Yeah.
And I was like, for sure. I mean, I'm very much, I don't know about you, but I'm very much of the type like old-fashioned type. I want to be pursued. But I was like, you know what? I'll give it a try. So after like the first or second date, I don't remember which one, like I texted him first. And he actually like made a comment about it. And we like laughed about it. We talked about it. But then I kept being the one to initiate.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, I'm done.
That's my issue. So I'm fine with initiating sometimes if it's established that he is interested, or it's like just to gauge it, to see it once. It's actually funny. When I started dating one of my exes, we were just talking. We might have gone, I think we had gone out on a date, maybe two at that point. And no, I don't think we went out on two. I think it was just one date. And he had mentioned, we were trying to plan a second, but he wasn't feeling good. And then I like didn't hear from him for like a couple of days, and I'm like talking to my friend and I'm freaking out. I'm like, I haven't heard from him. Like maybe he's not interested anymore. Like I don't know what's going on. She's like, okay, or maybe he's just sick, because like he had mentioned that he wasn't feeling good.
Right.
And then I said this to like two other friends, and because everything up to that point had been like great. Like he was so good at like texting me and communicating and all of that, and like wanting to make plans for a second date. But then like we had to see. I think it started with me having a COVID exposure and then him getting sick, and that threw our plans for a loop. But then I like wasn't hearing from him, and I'm like, what's happening? And then like I start to spiral, and like three of my friends are like, or he's just sick. And then my friend's like, if you're so concerned about it, like why don't you text him,
right,
and like ask him how he's feeling? And you want to know what? It turns out He was just sick. He's like, I'm so sorry for not like texting. I've been like sleeping on and off, like really not feeling good. And then you know what? After I texted him, because I was like, hey, how are you feeling? Like, I think I just texted him, hey, how are you feeling? And then we ended up, he set up, because he was still sick, but he set up a video call with, like, we had a video call because this was like during the Omicron surge. So like not really, we wanted to play it safe in case one of us did have COVID. So yeah, so sometimes he's just sick, or sometimes he wants to gauge your interest and hear from you.
Yeah.
But if it's consistent, like I say, if he likes you, you'll know. And like a guy who likes you,
right. And unfortunately,
is
like
reach out.
as much as we don't, like people say nobody plays the games, or like the games are annoying, everybody plays games. Like that's what happens when you're dating or when you're going out on dates. But like I remember saying to this person, like, I know you don't mean to be playing games, but like this is what you're doing, and it's really annoying and it's really frustrating. And I agree that like one or two times gauging where he's at or him gauging where you're at is fine, but then like once that continues, it's like, I mean, at least for me, once I kept being the one to initiate, I was like, I'm done. And I just then waited for him to initiate, because I was like, I'm so checked out already that like I don't even know if he's interested. I was like, I don't think he's interested, and I don't want to keep, like, I don't need to pursue something that somebody is not interested in me. But I do agree that like there's nothing wrong with checking in, because the guy also, like, I mean, I have lots of brothers, like they love feeling wanted, like by their wives, or like when their wives text them to see how they're feeling, or like their girlfriends, or like how they're doing. But they also need to make the effort. Like they also need to, it needs to be reciprocal.
Like, people are busy, but I've learned from my past relationships, like one of my like main ex, the time we were dating, at least at the beginning of our relationship, was like the busiest part of his work year. And he wasn't doing a job where he could just look at his phone. Like he wasn't sitting at a computer looking at his phone. And he was working 12, 13, 14, maybe more hours a day. And you know what? He still pursued me. He still texted me. He still called me. He still like was in communication with me. And like, really, if he wants to, he will.
Yeah, that shows you're interested.
Yeah.
Agreed. 100%. Yeah. I agree with that. I have one more story.
Okay. Let's hear it.
So this was also another like matchmaking site guy. And I don't know why I said yes, because his profile said, must be strict with snoot. So snoot is modesty. So must be strict with modesty. Now, I'm not an immodest person, but like I wear short sleeves. My skirts usually go like right above my knee. But must be strict with snoot. I was like, that sounds very controlling.
Yeah, I don't like that.
But okay, I don't know why I said yes. Don't ask me. It must have been an impulse thing.
Was he cute at least?
I'm a sucker for like the dark, short, Sephardi type, or even the tall, dark Sephardi type. Like I'm just a sucker for like darker people.
Okay.
So I think that's what he looked like. Like they can be short, they can be tall, it doesn't matter. But like dark Sephardi.
Like the Sephardi look.
Yeah, but like I've also found other guys attractive too. But like
a sucker for black hair and baby faces.
Right.
Like,
but like even if they're not right for you, like you'll say yes. Like that's my problem. Like
if your hair is as dark as my hair and you have a baby face and you're cute, like.
Right, and he could be like the most wrong person for like every guy that I've gone out with that has actually been sort of good for me has been the opposite of what I'm a sucker for, and I've been like, wow, this is actually great. And then every guy who I've gone out with that is not good for me has been like the one that I'm like, oh, so cute.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's probably why I said yes. Also, I may have been on this thing of like, it was probably shortly after I started dating, I was like, I'm just going to say yes. Because I was really scared. And sometimes, like, my roommates would talk me into, like, Miriam, you just got to do it. So I'd be like, I'm just going to do it. Really regretted it. Anyway, I was kind of not so nice. And I went on the date in a tight skirt that went right above my knee.
On purpose?
Totally. A shirt. It was also, like, my go-to dating outfit. But I could have chosen
It's your
something
first
else.
date outfit.
Yeah. But I also could have chosen. I actually don't have those anymore because like now it just always depends on how I'm feeling. But at that point I had that was like my go-to outfit. But a shirt that went right above my elbow and a shirt that went right below my collar. Now, that's usually how I dress, but like I can also, like, I'm all for in an environment where there's a certain dress code, like, you got to be respectful.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're working in a job or, like, you're going to a certain community where they expect you to dress a certain way, like, you have to be respectful. So I knew that he was expecting.
Like, I always wear a skirt to shul.
Exactly.
When I go to the synagogue or any other, like, religious institution, like, I wear pants. I don't only wear skirts. I always make sure to wear a skirt if I know I'm going somewhere religious.
Right. Like, I only wear skirts, but, like, at certain synagogues, like, my skirts will be longer, as opposed to, like, at the synagogue that we go to, sometimes it's, like, it's shorter. And I'm all about, like, being respectful. Also, like, I'm all about on the first date being true to who you are, but also, like, don't go crazy. But I was like, you know what? Screw this guy. Like, I'm going to put him to the test because I'm going to have fun because I know this isn't going to work out. Anyway, he picks me up. It's raining. We're supposed to, like, get food and go eat at, like, a park somewhere, but it's raining. So first I say to him, I have this thing against, unless you're seriously dating someone or you're, like, been dating for a while, against going to a restaurant and people seeing you and everybody start talking. Like, I just don't, because I know that everybody likes to talk and I don't like answering questions. So we were going to go to this restaurant to pick up food, and I was like, can we just, like, go for coffee or something? He's like, I'm really hungry. And I was like, okay, I guess we'll go for food. So we went for food. I refused to go into the restaurant. He just, like, was picking it up and coming back in the car. And I remember texting another guy, one of my guy friends, being like, how do I get out of this date? It's been 10 minutes. I want to leave already. Anyway, he comes back in the car. We, like, ended up so sketchy. I don't know why I was okay with it at the time. Because there was no park, we ended up parking the car somewhere and just talking in the car and eating, which, like, would seem normal, but, like, looking back, I'm like, it's like on the streets of New York. It's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Why didn't you go to, like, a park?
It was raining.
Oh, it was raining.
That's when we were supposed to go to a park.
Okay. Well, you know what? I ate froyo in a guy's car once. Like, it was during COVID, and there was no indoor dining.
This was before
And
COVID.
there was no outdoor dining either.
Why didn't you go to a park, Rachel?
It was raining. I think we were going to sit on the bench outside, but it was raining, so we sat in his car. But we opened the window because it was
literally
COVID.
Pointless.
It was COVID. We were social distancing.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so he opens the food and he was like, they forgot to give us your food. And I was like, I wasn't even that hungry. I was like, that's okay. Like, I don't need anything. Also, disclaimer, like, I have no shame when I eat. Like, I'll be eating at the Sabbath table, at the Shabbat table, Friday night dinner, and someone will serve, like, chicken legs. And I'm like, guys, I'm eating with my hands. Like, you can't eat this with a fork and a knife. Like, I have no shame.
Yeah.
I mean, I always, like, use napkins after wash my hands, but, like, burgers, like, I go all in, like, with the sauce. So I also don't like eating on the first couple days because I'm always afraid that the guy's gonna, like, think I'm a pig, but really I'm not. I'm just not gonna, I just, like, enjoy my food.
Yeah,
I enjoy my food. So I didn't even really want food, and I also wasn't hungry. Anyway, he's like, here, you can have some of my rice. I was like, no, I don't want it. It's okay. He's like, I'm not eating until you take some. And I was like, oh, okay then. So I took some rice. I was like, this guy is controlling.
Pushy.
Yeah.
I think it's I feel like it's a Sephardi thing. Like,
Oh, he was farty.
yeah, it sounds like a typical, like, we're not, like, trying to be racist here on the podcast.
No, they just grow up differently.
But, like, yeah. No, my ex used to do that, too. He's like, why aren't you eating more? Eat more. I'm like, I'm full. He's like, no, eat more. Like,
I have friends who are like that. They just grow up differently. But it looks, I just think it's like on a first date. Like, I think he thought he was being nice.
yeah. But it just seemed kind of
Like,
pushy.
he wasn't listening to what I was saying. Like, that at that point, I was like, Anyway, this was also my first year of grad school, but I got a BA in psychology. My mom's a social worker, so I grew up a lot around, like, talking to people and helping them. He must have spent the entire date. I don't think he asked me once about myself. Barely asked me about myself.
Ugh, I hate that.
Talked about himself most of the time. I felt like I was in a therapy session that I had to suffer through because I felt like I was giving him advice and therapy. And then at some point, I purposely wanted to do this. We broached the topic of modesty. And he goes,
Okay.
well, I don't want to insult you. I'm like, don't worry. You're not going to insult me. And he was like, well, whatever the girl does before she gets married is fine. I just hope whatever she does I just hope she does after we get married, she does like what I want.
No.
Which is like that. I don't think he was Sephardi. He was like a certain type of Sephardi, which is like very. I have friends who like, I forgot what type it is, but they come from that community. So that's like very accepted that like the husband makes the decisions. But I told him, I was like, I just want to tell you, whatever you get before you get married is what you're going to get after. That being said, people do change. People do things for their significant others.
But you have to want to.
Exactly. I was like, this is how, and I knew he was going to bring it up because like I even was wearing a coat because it was raining and I took it off so he could see what I was wearing. Because I was like, this is who I am. Like, I'm not going to fake it. Then he wanted to go out again. Oh, wait. I was like, okay, this date has got to end. It must have been like an hour and a half, 2 hours already. I was like, this date has got to end. So he goes, oh, I have to go daven mincha, the afternoon prayers. He's like, I have to go daven. And I was like, oh, great, there's a synagogue. Like, I was like, this is my out. I was like, there's a synagogue like right down the block. Like, why don't you drop me off at home and you can go daven? And he was like, oh, like, do you mind if I just daven in the car? And I was like, okay. I had to pee so badly. And then he goes, is it like okay if like we daven next to each other? I was like, in my head, I was like, first of all, I don't daven mincha just because like that's not something like I've like gotten as a habit. But also I had to go to the bathroom, so I couldn't even, like I couldn't pray, I couldn't daven. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll say like, so I said like some small prayers, but I was like.
Oh yeah, it's a law. For those of you who aren't familiar, there's a law that you're not supposed to pray when you have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, he's like, is it okay if like we just daven together? And like the seat was our like separator.
But why is he assuming you didn't already or that you need to?
I don't know. I was so annoyed.
You should have just been like, I already davened mincha.
I should have said that. But he still then would have made me sit in the car quietly.
You've been like, I'm going to go find a bathroom and then run away.
I should have, but it was pouring.
Oh.
I mean, I should have just braced the rain anyway. Eventually he dropped me off at home and he texted me maybe the same night or the next day saying like, I had a really nice time. You seem like a really introspective girl who likes to listen, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, sorry, dude, not happening.
Yeah, no.
But I was like, to me, I just like, that probably was like, that and the date with the Mussar guy were my two funniest stories. Just because like, I don't know what is going on in guys' heads.
I don't know either. And like, what I don't understand is when guys think that they could tell us what to do or have like strong opinions about what we do with our own bodies.
Yeah. I said I have a lot of brothers. I have a big family. Thank God I have 6 brothers and 3 sisters. My brothers, sometimes I'm like, you guys are idiots. Like, why do you think, like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Something that I give my brothers a lot of credit for, which is how we were raised, is like, this is, especially my brother who just got married, like his wife covers her hair, but he's like, you can do what you want. Like, this is your commandment. This is not mine. Like, you do what you decide. And I'm just like, that is the proper respect. Like, I get it that guys want certain things in a wife, but like,
yeah,
instead of, if you're going out with somebody and they don't align with you, whether it's religiously or emotionally or psychologically or I don't know, even physically, which is pathetic, but educationally, like, then instead of telling them what to do, just end it. It's so stupid. I'm like, why do you, like, you don't like us telling you what to do, so why do you think you can tell a girl what to do?
Yeah. I don't know. I mentioned before that I had a video call right before this with a guy. It was also from the same matchmaking website. And, like, going in, I looked at his profile. I'm like, why the heck did this guy say yes to me?
Yeah. That also, I'm like,
I'm like, why did he say yes to me? Not that I'm putting myself down. I'm amazing, and I know that. But just religiously, it seemed we were not aligned. And, like, I've had it before, and I'm like, okay, maybe he just, like, put things on his profile, but then actually is open to other things, like talking to people. And he's not located in New York, so we had a video call last week, and we talked. The conversation was okay. He kind of ended the call weird, and I'm like, okay. Oh, no, I was wearing a long sleeve shirt. It definitely didn't cover my collarbone, but, like, he couldn't see that much of me because it was, like, a small, like, video chat screen. So then I didn't hear from him for a bunch of days, and that's already, like, I'm like, he's dead to me.
Double dead.
And I was about to close the match and just text him, like, I haven't heard from you. Like, for me, like, whether you're interested or not, within 24 hours, you should follow up. Like, it's,
yes.
and it's on the guy.
I didn't used to do that, but I've gotten better.
No, I think it's on the guy. Unless I know immediately that I want to end it, then I'll end it immediately. Like, literally, one time I ended it with a guy as I was walking. When I got home. Like,
Did you actually?
Yeah, we went for drinks, like 20 blocks from my apartment, and he offered to Uber me home, but it was pretty early. So I'm like, and it was the summer. So it wasn't dark out yet. So I was like, no, it's only 20 blocks. Like, I'll walk. It's fine. So he's like, okay, but please let me know when you get home. So I did. And the whole walk home, I was trying to figure out how to end it with him, or what I was going to say. But also, I was like, he was a nice guy. He just isn't for me. So I was like, I think I told this story before. I thought of a friend for him. So in my walk home, I called the friend. I was like, hey, I just went out with this guy. Would you want to maybe go out with him? He's not for me, but I think he might be okay for you. He's a decent guy. He's just not for me. And she agreed. So when I got home, I'm like, hey, I got home. I had a really nice time. I just don't think we're a match. But that being said, I do have a friend in mind if you'd be open to it. So yeah, I one time literally ended it. Like,
that's amazing.
Like a half an hour later after my walk home. But no, usually like if I'm like neutral about a guy or I want to go out again, I wait for him to message. I only message when I know I don't want to go out again. And this guy, we had a call on Thursday night, and then I didn't hear from him after. Didn't hear from him before Shabbos. I didn't hear from him Saturday night. Didn't hear from him Sunday. Didn't hear from him Monday.
Oh my God, are you living my life?
I only heard from him today. And I was like, I literally am waiting. Or no, it was last night. He texted me last night. So Monday night. From Thursday night to Monday night. Like, you're dead to me by then. And I was already waiting for Miriam to confirm timing for recording. And I'm like, if she confirms timing, then I guess I could talk to him beforehand. Because also I just like kind of wanted to gauge. Because I was also confused. I'm like, why are you texting me 4 days later, 5 days later?
Because sometimes guys are idiots. Like, I had the same thing, and I texted the person who set us up. I was like, if he doesn't want to go out, that's fine. But like, he needs to say yes or no either way, because this is just rude. And he like called me, and he's like, no, like, how are you doing? And he wanted to go out again, and he just like didn't think that he needed to follow up. It didn't end up working out with him, but sometimes guys are just dumb. But that's not an excuse. I'm just saying guys are stupid.
I told the matchmaker, and I was like, also, I just don't think we're a match religiously. Like, he keeps like, okay, so like, for me, I'm very modern. I keep Shabbat, I keep kosher, but like certain like things, like I can tell when you're too religious for me. Like, he's like, because he's like, oh, how are you? And I'm like, I'm fine, how are you? And he's like, Baruch Hashem. And I'm like, once you add in the Baruch Hashem before everything, like sometimes I'll say like, thank God, like whatever. But once you like add that to everything, I'm like, we're not on the same level. Like, it's no criticism to him, and it's no criticism
you're
to
just
people
not
who do it.
A match.
It's just like, this isn't a match. And he made another comment about something. I won't get into the details. It wasn't anything offensive to me. It was just something like, oh my gosh, that's so important to you. Like, that's something I literally don't care about, and I feel like we're not a match. We were talking about like getting in an elevator on Shabbat, and I'm like, yeah, I live on a high floor. My doorman presses the button. Sometimes other people press the button, and I'll just get in and go with it. And he was telling me a story about how one time he got in an elevator with his neighbor on Shabbat, and then afterwards he found out he was Jewish, and he was so scarred from it. And I'm like, we're not a match. Like, I knowingly get into an elevator sometimes with people who I know are Jewish and not religious. They're pressing the button anyways. Why can't I just go in the elevator? Which, like, maybe that's wrong. Maybe it's not. For me, that's, like, not the biggest deal in the world. Like, yeah, maybe I could be better about that, but, like, I don't think that's me breaking Shabbos. So, but, yeah, so he, like, said little things like that. So then today we were having a call, and, like, he's kind of awkward, but it was fine. Like, I'm good at having conversation. So, like, I'm just, like, outgoing. So, like, I can easily have a conversation with people. But towards the end, he was about to end the conversation. I'm like, actually, wait, there's, like, one thing that I wanted to ask you. And I was like, it's just, like, little tidbits that I've picked up from our conversations, plus, like, what it said in your profile. I just want to let you know that, like, I'm very modern. And he's like, okay, like, what do you mean? Like, I'm also modern. I'm not yeshivish, like, all of this. And he's like, yeah, like, there are things that I look for, like, basics when I'm looking into a girl, like, when I'm looking at profiles. He's like, keeps Shabbos, keeps kosher, wants to cover her hair. And I'm like, yeah, so that's not me. I'm like, I keep Shabbos and I keep kosher, but like, in my profile, I say I don't want to cover my hair. I wear pants. I say it in my profile. And like, those aren't things that I see myself changing. Like, this is me. And I even said it. I'm like, I'm very comfortable with where I am religiously. Like, yeah, everyone has room to grow in places, and I know people change. But at least at this point in life, with the big things, like what I wear. But it goes the other way too. Like, I keep Shabbat. Like, I don't see myself not keeping Shabbat. But I also, like, don't see myself, like, wearing only skirts. Or, like, maybe I'll cover my hair sometimes, but, like, I don't see myself buying a sheitel when I get married. And he's like, I must have overlooked that in your profile. Now I feel so bad. God. I, like, wasted your time on 2 calls. I'm like, honestly, I was going to end it and not accept a second call. But, like, I was like, I figured I might as well just ask about it. I didn't even mention, like, the not being in touch for 4 days, 5 days. Even though, like, if you're listening, because I did tell him about the podcast, I didn't tell him the name. If you're listening, text the girl within 24 hours. Whether you're interested or not, just tell her within 24 hours. And that goes for girls, too. If you are not interested in a guy, just let him know within 24 hours. And yes, sometimes I'm not the best with that, and sometimes I'll wait for him to reach out. But, like...
Otherwise, you might get Mussar. Otherwise, you might get Rebuke.
But I'm just saying, like, there's no reason to wait 4 days to tell a girl that you want to go out again.
Agreed.
Unless you had an emergency.
Right.
Like, if somebody died, but also you could tell her. My grandma literally died and I had a date planned with a guy. I texted him. I'm like, hey, my grandma died. Can we push off our date for a week?
What if he said no?
And I'll be like, okay, bye.
Here's what I really think, like, sometimes, like, because I'm also guilty of it. Sometimes I think that what happens, because I'm also guilty of it, like, I'll say yes to a guy that's not necessarily right for me, or a guy might say yes that's not necessarily right for me, because, like, he might say yes, because sometimes it's like you don't know, and it's like nice to explore, and like you just don't know what's going to work for you. But I also think that sometimes, whether this is girls or boys, I'm not putting this just on males, I think that there's also this, like, thought of, because I've definitely had this said to me, and I've had people say it about other people, that, oh, but, like, it's fine, like, they'll change, like.
No.
But in a relationship, there is compromise, but you can't expect that to be, first of all, you can't go into a relationship. My mom always likes to say, you can't change anyone, you can only change yourself.
Yeah.
And meaning, like, the person who needs to change in a relationship is like, you need to change how you're thinking and you need to change how you're looking at something. But you also can't go out on a date with somebody expecting that they're going to be willing to compromise all the way at the beginning. Like, compromise isn't necessarily changing who you are, it's just finding the middle ground.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen until you're, like, actually in a relationship with someone. And I think that it's okay to go out with people that aren't necessarily who you think are at your level, or, like, not exactly what you're looking for, but with an understanding of, like, if this works out, like, there needs to be time for that compromise and that trust to build, and that can't just happen on the first or second date.
Yeah, and if it's big things that are deal breakers, then end it right. Like,
exactly.
I learned that the hard way, and, like, my previous relationships that I've talked about, like, I learned it the hard way. Even if someone says they're changing, like, you have to go based off of who they are now.
Yeah.
And, like, if you grow together, and people do change, and, like, it happens, but you shouldn't go into something right away knowing that there's a huge difference if that is your deal breaker. Like, if this guy was like, oh yeah, that's not a big deal that you wear pants, like, I do my thing, you could do your thing, like, I just want to date a girl who I know is going to have a kosher home, and, like, and meaning, like, help me, like, we'll build a kosher home together, keep Shabbos together, like, all of that stuff, and have the same core values, even if some other values aren't the same, then that's one thing. Like, I'm fine dating a guy who's more religious.
Right.
I'm fine dating a guy who, like, leans a little more to the right than I do. As long as, like, there's mutual respect and he's okay with me doing my thing. He can do his thing.
I think that also, though, with the coming out, with the, how'd you say it, that, like, you have to look at a person who they are now and not in the future. I think that also a lot of times people think, like, oh, well, this person has a past. And while a person's past is important in certain aspects or like with certain things, sometimes like a person is totally different than their past and has totally left their past behind and is not the same person. And I think a lot of times we might look at someone, like let's say someone from high school and be like, oh, they were a bully in high school. But like
they change.
People
like, grow up. I think people at the core are still the same person, but I think people change what they do, and I think they mature and they grow up and like
right.
I don't know, just because somebody like went through college partying, wearing like booty shorts and not keeping kosher doesn't mean they're not religious now. That has nothing to do with it.
Exactly. I think you're right. I think it's important to look at who a person is now, but like realize that there are little puzzle pieces like
not that it's not okay. I'm not saying if you wear booty shorts and you don't keep kosher, you're a bad person.
Right.
You do.
Right. We're not saying that.
I'm just saying someone who's looking for someone who's religious. You can't look at someone's past and be like, oh, they did all of this in the past, so how do I trust them now?
Or even somebody who's very religious in the past and is now more modern, and you want somebody who's more modern, you're like, but they were so religious, like, who's to say they're not going to go back to that? Or, like, what made them not be as religious? Like, I think it's important, like, I do think it's important to look at a person's past and, like, what they want from the future, but those two things form who they are now.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to look, you can't look at any of those three things individually. You have to look at their past, present, future, and present, like, all together.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
in my mind it does.
No, I agree. And I don't know, but also I don't think you can judge people based off of their past. And also you can't, like, just say, like, oh, I want them to do this in the future, or they're saying they're going to do this in the future, and then just assume it's going to happen.
No, I'm not saying you can judge someone based on their past. I'm saying everybody has a past.
Yeah,
and then you want to know, right, and you want to know how someone gets to their present, like, is very telling of who they are and the steps that they took and, like, the growth that they've done. Like, if they're exactly who they were in their past, then do you really want somebody who hasn't changed at all?
No.
But, like, so it's important to know their past and how they've gotten there, and, like, did they do it in a healthy way? Did they do it in a not healthy way? Like, what steps they took. But when I say think about someone's present, like, not they say they're going to be this way, but, like, what do they want from the future? What they're going to be like in the future? What do they see the future as? Knowing that the future is, like, not in their hands, but, like, at least they have goals. At least they have, like, a vision, you know? Like, if your vision for the future, let's say you want someone who lives in Israel, or you don't want to live in Israel and you're going out with somebody who wants to live in Israel, like, those are two totally different visions for the future. So that's why I think you have to look at, like, someone's past to see, like, how they got to where they are, because, like, that's very telling of who they are in the core, but also, like, what they see for their future, because that's also going to be very telling of, like, the direction that their life is going in. But those two things then form sort of how they're living life now.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
I don't know if that makes sense, but sometimes I say things and I'm like...
No, it does make sense. And if, even, like, looking at your own life, like, you see your past, you see... Meaning you as in a figurative you. Like, me, Rachel, Miriam, like, our pasts have brought us to where we are today. And also, like, we have goals for what we want in the future, and that is also shaping our present.
Right. I just went to my 10-year high school reunion, and I was at the reunion, and I was like, 10 years ago, I thought my future was going to look totally different. And every year on my birthday, I think back to, like, what I thought my life was going to look like a year from now. And it looks totally different. But me thinking about what I want in the future, like, of course it changed because my life changed every year. But I still, like, kept up that same, like, motivation and that same want for certain things from life, you know?
I think it's interesting what you're saying, like, every birthday you look back, because I do that too.
I don't know what started making me do that.
Honestly, because I think one year I woke up and I'm like, I don't feel any different. And one of my friends was like, okay, you might not feel different than you felt yesterday, but, like, think back to where you were a year ago. And I feel like, especially in the past few years, life has changed so quickly and so much that it's, like, a reflection. And, like, my birthday is coming up. My birthday is in a week. So a week from when we're recording this. Yeah. So my birthday's in a week from when we're recording this, and I'm like, okay, like, here comes 29. Like, what is 29? And I'm like, okay, but what was 28? and then what was 27? And I look back, and last year my life was in a completely different place. Like last year I was in a relationship that I thought was going to be like endgame, and I was doing stuff for myself. I was in a bad apartment situation that I was like getting myself out of. I was in the process of like moving out. I had just gotten a new job also, so I think I had already accepted the job offer, and I was starting a whole new life. And now it's like I'm turning 29. I'm single as a Pringle, like Miriam said at the beginning of the episode. Like the relationship I thought was going to be like my forever was not. I had another really good relationship after that was also not my forever. Spent a lot of months just like back in the dating world, like being frustrated and being like, well, I had it so good, and like now it's just like terrible again. And like that materialized into this podcast. And
so cool.
Like the dating frustrations, it's like, okay, I was sitting at a table on Shabbat talking about it, and then once the idea came up and the fact that I want to talk about it, like everyone's like, it's a good outlet for my dating frustrations and for all of us to commiserate together, because dating does suck.
Oh my God, it sucks. But also another thing though, like I think what's important, why it's like cool to look back on your life every year, is because when you're younger, like every year is like a milestone. Like, and at least like in the Jewish world, it's like you're 12 and you become a bat mitzvah. Like 16, like everybody, like, I mean, I'm from, I think in New York it's 17, but 16 you get like your license, 15 you get your permit, like 18, what's 18? 18 you can vote, 21 you can drink. Like there's all these like milestones, and eventually you're like,
there's no more milestones.
What's the milestone? Like,
but I'm kind of okay with not like.
But that's why it's cool to look back.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh yeah, this is the last year of your 20s, and I'm like,
okay.
My friend,
30 and flirt. Is that what people say? 30 and flirty.
30, flirty, and thriving.
Yeah, that's what people say.
From 13 going on 30. One of my friends was like, yeah, 29 is going to be our chaotic hot mess here, and I'm like, I'm okay with that, but like we'll see what happens.
Also,
I don't know what 29 is going to be.
I think 29 is great. I actually think like for me 27, 28 have been my best years, but also this is like a little plug for my sister-in-law's magazine.
Oh yeah, please plug.
And it's about like your 20s and being like really exploring who you are. So my sister-in-law is amazing. Her name is Leslie. She has a magazine called Atari. I always get the name of her company wrong because it used to be like style and consulting, but it used to be a boutique, but now it's just a consulting firm. But it's like more than that. She's really, really cool. I always say to my brother, I actually always say to her, I'm like, why did you marry my brother? And she's like, for his hair and his money. And I'm like, and he has none. So again, I mean, I love my brother to pieces, but I literally am obsessed with her. She's been in my family, thank God, for very long. So her thing is called Atari Style Consulting, and she has this magazine called Atari, which is named after my nieces Atara and Allie. And this is her third magazine coming out. And I actually asked her for like a little summary, because each magazine has its own like topic to it and theme. And the first one was about like igniting like who you are as your inner queen, meaning like looking at your inner beauty. The other one was like knowing who you are both inside and outside and mentally. And what she does is, yes, it's a lot about fashion and affordable fashion, but she also gets food tips and health tips and mental health tips and advice from other people in that area. So this specific one coming up is about, her magazine coming up is about relationships. So I asked her, so first I want to say, like, I wrote an article I wrote a feature for the magazine, a very condensed version of my story, but the whole premise, and I took out this paragraph, so that's why I want to say it now, but the whole premise of my magazine, of my feature is that there's all this pressure in your 20s to move on to the next stage of your life, and nobody focuses on the fact that like this is literally teenage and 20s are the formative years of your life. You're expected to pick a job, pick a major, pick a place to live, and then you're also expected to get married, have a family, pick a house, like do all these things. How can you do all that when you don't even know who you are?
Yeah.
And for some people it works, but what everybody sees, and I was thinking about this the other day, what everybody sees is the failure of like, you can't hold a relationship. Why is that a failure? That's a success that you know that a relationship is not healthy for you. Why can't you look at the successes that you do have, that you graduated, that you have a job, that you're living on your own, that you're happy, that your mental health is in a good place, or you're getting to where you need to be? So, and the paragraph that I took out, because like it didn't really fit with the feature, was that I actually had somebody that I know told me, they said, because I was talking to them about like where my life is, and she says like the TV show Friends, which I'm sure everybody knows, it's about these 6 people in their 20s who, and it shows them going through their 20s and into their 30s and having their like classic, like Rachel has her 30s birthday and everybody and those milestones. But it talks about that their 20s, like they don't have it all together. Their life is like literally a crazy show. They can't keep relationships. They can't keep jobs down. They have
job's a joke. You're broke. Your
love life's deal. Like that's literally what it is. And then after 10 years, when they're all in their 30s, they're finally, except for Joey, so joke around that Joey's a kid, but they finally all have kids or are married or have stable houses or stable jobs. But what the show is like, then this somebody told me, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool, is that it's okay to explore and it's okay not to know. And I think that that's why it's so fun to look at your 20s and be like, yeah, that's right, I'm 29 and it's going to be a great year. And when you enter your 30s, okay, so what? You're in your 30s. Like now is the time when like I can really start figuring out what I need, because 20s is when I figured out who I was and what I needed. 30s is now going to figure out like how I'm going to take what I need and move forward with it, because you can't do that at the beginning of your 20s. You're not there in life yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the magazine, it's like so great because it's called Mirror Reflections, and it's going to focus on the relationships we have with ourselves and the world around us. She said there are many talented contributors writing on topics such as style, fashion design, body image, interior design, personal organization, dating and marriage, event planning, infertility, overall health and wellness, and more. So the whole magazine is about relationships, but the whole premise of the magazine, which I think is so cool, especially this relationships one, is like there are so many aspects of our lives that are relationships that aren't necessarily have to do with a relationship of one person to another. It's also about a relationship, you to yourself and you to your body, or you to your mental health. And I think that unfortunately in today's world, like, and it's not just in Judaism, by the way. I took a class in grad school. It's in so many cultures. Like it's in Muslim and Christianity and Chinese, and like cross-culturally, like what takes over, everybody thinks the only relationship that you need is with a significant other. And that takes over everybody's life. And they forget that there's more to a person than just being with another person. Yeah. And it's not just in Judaism. Like we watched videos on it and studies, and it's cross-culturally, that's how it is. Like talk to anyone on the street, their parents are like, so when are you getting married? Like
everybody.
Exactly. And like it's really about, and that's why I think it's like so cool that you're like, you know what, 29 is going to be like the year when we're going to have fun, because you know what, let it be fun, because people forget that you have to have relationships with other things in your life other than someone else.
Yeah. And honestly, like looking back at a year ago, like I was in a really like happy well, it was towards the end of the relationship, so verdict is out whether it was happy. Maybe I just thought it was like a rough patch and we were figuring things out. But yeah, I was in a relationship. I had a partner. I had someone who always had my back. And it's funny because last year I was like interviewing for jobs, and this year I'm also starting to interview again for jobs. It was a situation, not for this podcast, but I'm looking for a new job. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, a year ago I was interviewing. I had this like support system. Like yeah, I have my parents. And like I told my parents, I would talk to my dad after all of my job interviews, and my mom also. But I would also call him. And like I would call my boyfriend, and he was the one sending me, like, good luck, and that I'm going to kill it, and that I got it, and, like, when it came to the time to negotiate my contract, he's like, no, you want to ask for this and that, and, like, I know how to do it. I'm an independent woman, and, like, I was almost 28 years old at the time. Like, I had gone 27 years of my life without having a relationship.
Right.
So this time I'm like, okay, I don't have that support. Like, even, like, setting up job interviews, it's like, okay. But then I'm like, wait, there was one thing in my life that I didn't have last year that I have this year. And, like, last year I had just moved to a new neighborhood, and I was, like, getting my bearings. I wasn't so happy in my apartment. Like, that contributed to a lot of my happiness in the neighborhood. And I moved out of the apartment. I got a great group of friends. And, like, I'm like, I do have a support system. I might not have a boyfriend, but I have, like,
It's different.
all of these really great friends and great connections that I've made. And I'm like, okay, like, it's not a secret that I have a job interview. It's like, okay, I can tell a couple friends. It's like, yeah, I have a job interview this day. Like it's exciting. It's like, I can talk to friends about my anxieties about it. I don't need a boyfriend to talk to about it. So, like you're saying, like, other relationships are very important too. It's not just the one relationship.
Right, and I think that that's just, like, in society in general, by the way, it's, like, that's what I said. It's not just, like, religion. Like, there's this focus on, like, you have to be in a relationship. But, like, yes, it's important, but, like, it's also important to figure out who you are first and to build a relationship with yourself. And, like, it's really beautiful. I have friends who got married right out of high school, and they're very, very happily married, and they figured out who they were together. But then I have, like, my cousin and her husband. Like, I love them so much. They got married, and, like, he was just short of 30 and she was in her 30s, and they both grew individually and then figured out who they could be together.
Yeah.
So it's both types of relationships, and both are individual in their own way, and both have their own beauty. But everyone, like, someone would see the relationship where they got married later and be like, oh, that's so sad. They were so single for so long. And I'm like, why is that sad? Like, she got to explore and do all these, like, some of my friends who are married are like, you've gotten to do all these crazy and fun things that we'll never get to do. Not that they regret being married, but, like, you got to look at, like, instead of looking at the difficult side, like, yes, it is difficult to be single, and yes, it is difficult not to have that other person, but you're right, there are other support systems.
Yeah.
You know, and people forget about that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can only say that because, like, I've gone to this place where, like, I'm happy with who I am, but I don't know, it just made, like, I see people who, like, literally are down on themselves all the time, and I'm like, but you are such a great person.
Yeah, you, like, sometimes it's okay to be down on yourself. Sometimes.
Yeah,
Like,
you have to be.
I get in my funks all the time.
Oh,
It's like,
me
there's
too.
no guy out there for me. But I'm like, wait, but I have so many other things going for me that, like, when it's supposed to come, it'll come, or it won't, and I'll die alone.
Literally,
and, like, it'll happen.
Literally, I say all the time, I'm going to be like that fun older single aunt. Like, okay, God forbid, but
yeah, I'll
we
spoil
all
my
get
nieces
yeah,
and nephews.
we all get in our funks. That's how it is. But, like, I really think a lot of that is because of the pressures of society, and they forget to say, like, okay, so you didn't get married when you were 22. But look what you did do when you were 22. You graduated college. You got a job. You moved to a different city.
Look at what you did in your 20s.
Exactly. That's what I think. Instead of people looking at what you didn't do, they have to look at what you did do.
Yeah.
I know. That was a
Yeah.
very big segue.
Yeah. Okay, so Miriam, I know we just gave a lot of advice. Oh, also, I'll put up the website. Miriam's going to send me the website information for the magazine and her article and everything.
Also, my sister-in-law's on the front of the magazine. She's so gorgeous. She's so pretty. Don't tell her I said that, but she knows it. I tell her all the time. I'm like, you're so pretty. I'm so jealous. She's also, like, has the best heart. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about her now.
It's okay.
My brother's fine. Just joking. He's awesome.
Okay, Miriam. So I know we've given a lot of advice. Is there any one key point of advice that you want to emphasize again, or a different point that we didn't make already?
Yeah. So this is something that it's something my mom has always said, and I've always said, and it seems like such an easy piece of advice, but it's not. And it's just trust your gut. And you have to trust your inner voice. Now, what a lot of us do is our inner voice is telling us something, and then we go to our friends. And our friends are telling us something, and it's like, might be against what our inner voice is saying, might be what our inner voice is saying. But at the end of the day, especially in a relationship, if something doesn't sit right with you, trust yourself. Mm-hmm. Someone else doesn't need to tell you that's not sitting right with you. That's a very hard thing to do, and it's actually like, I think one of the main reasons I'm able to do it is because my parents have basically been telling me that probably since I was born, and all my siblings say it, so I think it's very different. But unfortunately, I think a lot of things that people do in a relationship is something doesn't feel right, and their friends know it doesn't feel right, but their friends can't say anything to them because or their friends do say something and it creates tension, or they can't say anything because then that's going to be a bad situation. So at the end of the day, trust your gut, because if something is telling you something is wrong, it could be nothing, but it could be something. So whatever that inner voice is, if it's a voice in your head, if it's butterflies in your stomach that are really nerves, if it's you can't sleep, if something is off, trust it. Talk to the person. Talk to your mom. Talk to your therapist. Talk to your friend. But don't just ignore it.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
I like it. It's good advice.
I think it's something
Trust
that people forget about.
Yeah, your gut is usually right.
Yeah.
So
the one time I didn't trust my gut was the one time I was wrong. Not because I'm saying I'm always right, but I'm telling you, that inner voice,
there's something there, and it's
something there. And sometimes it needs to be hashed out, and I talk to someone to help me figure out what that feeling is, or what that inner voice is saying. But if something feels off, it feels off for a reason. It's not just off because you want it to be. It's if you feel somebody's following you, you feel you're weird, you have that feeling for a reason.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's my advice.
Okay, I like it.
Thank you.
And then, Miriam, finally,
my tagline.
What is your Real Housewives tagline?
Okay, so I have two, but I was running them by my mom, and she's like, Miriam, one of them doesn't make sense, and one of them does. One of them has to be explained. So the one that has to be explained that I love is, it's not that you can or can't, you already are. Meaning if you think you're not succeeding in life, or you're not doing what you need to do, look at the steps that you've taken to get there already. If you think that you can't be in a relationship, look at the work that you've done on yourself, or look at how much who you have a relationship with. But my mom was that is, and she's right, it really goes deeper than just that. And so this is actually something that I've been telling myself a lot lately. My mom has been telling me a lot lately, because I moved from a different place in Manhattan, and that was a really scary decision. I made professionally, I made a couple decisions that were scary. I've been making a lot of decisions that are scary but right for me. Mm-hmm. And this is what my mom keeps saying, and I love this phrase. It says, if you continue to do what you've always done, you're going to continue to get what you've always gotten. So I think that's really my tagline. Change is scary, and change sucks.
Yeah. But
change can also be really great. But if you don't go for that change, whether it's in a relationship, or it's in a job, or it's just in trusting yourself, then you're just going to continue to be the miserable, or the bored, or the whatever person that you are.
Yeah.
Which is what was happening to me when I was in my early 20s. I was just continuing to be in this rut, and then I was I don't want to be in this rut anymore. So I started working on myself, and then it progressed from there. But that's my tagline.
Big fan of change. It's scary. I hate change.
Change is so scary.
So necessary. And that's what I was saying. I made so many changes in the past 2 years of my life.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it's gotten me into so many different places that I would have never imagined 2 years ago.
But change also lets you know your worth.
Yeah.
And who supports you, and who's there for you. Because when you make a change in your life, whether it's right for you or not, the people that stand by you are, who is true to you in your life. And you also know I can do it. I can do difficult things, and I have strength in myself.
Yeah.
So yes, that's my tagline. If you continue to do what you've always done, you're going to continue to get what you've always gotten.
I like it. That's good.
From my mom.
I like it. Well,
Yeah.
Miriam.
Thank you. I'm sorry that was so long.
It's okay. I hope everyone has enjoyed our words of wisdom. It's a lot. There's a lot there. It's a lot of good stuff. So, but thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
This has been great.
I'm so happy. I've been waiting for this. And buy my sister-in-law's magazine, everyone.
Yes, I will include the link.
She's so cool.
In the episode.
Also, I'm the editor, so if you find a mistake on it, it's not my fault.
Well, everyone, Shticky Situation Nation, remember, like us on
Like,
socials,
subscribe.
Reach out, fill out the applications if you want to be a guest, or date me. And everyone buy Miriam's sister-in-law's magazine. Again, we'll link that. But yeah, Shticky Situation Nation.
And you know what? I'm going to add something.
Yeah, add
But
it.
you didn't say your dating advice things that you usually do. Do you not do that anymore?
Sometimes I do. I could say my dating rules. If he likes you, you'll know. If he doesn't, you'll be confused. If he wants to, he will. Only reciprocate and no chasing.
Yes. And I'm also going to add, even if you don't want to date any of the guests, but you're like, wow, these people have great personalities. Maybe they know someone that might be good for me.
Oh, yeah, that could work, too.
That could work, too. I mean, Rachel wants to be a matchmaker, so, like...
I want to be a matchmaker. So
I'm making her job harder now.
No, it's fine. Send me your people from your network. Let's work together. Let's work together, make some Jewish couples, have some
work
babies
together.
named Rachel, or named after the podcast in some capacity. You never know.
What would the name be?
Sticky Situations.
No, but it has to be a good name for a baby.
I don't know. Just
Sitchy?
I don't know. We'll workshop it. But okay, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks
Thank you
for
again,
listening.
Miriam, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And Shticky Situation Nation, you'll catch me next time. Bye.